July 8th, page 2 on the fourth sentence, I think it's adequately addressed. It needs to be instead of adequate addressed.
What was that about?
Page 2 of the July 8th ones, the 1, 2, 3, third paragraph down there. I think it needs to say adequately addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so, having reviewed with those two corrections, can I get a motion to accept the June 30th meeting?
So moved. Second.
And seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the July 8th meeting,
So moved. Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Those were unanimous votes. Next order of business, I lost my order of businesses. This is why I don't like paper. Okay, next order of business is review and act on a request for approval, plan of operation for Yamas. Did I say that name right? Yamas Family Restaurant pursuant 335-85 for a restaurant located at the B1 Local Business District at 890 Elm Grove Road. Can someone come to the mic and introduce yourself and
All right, hello everyone. My name is Melinda. I'll be one of the managers for Yamas Restaurant. It's Yamas Family Restaurant.
And we've already had a restaurant in there. I was under the impression that we don't normally, if it's the same thing, is it because it's been so long since?
Right, the only reason this is before the commission is because of the proposed change in hour of operations. It's significantly earlier. Yamas Restaurant's proposing to open, I believe,
6:37. It's a breakfast, so we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's the reason why. Opening wise, we're assuming that we're going to open from 7 to 10 during the weekday. The weekend might change, but the reason we put those hours is just in case because we don't know what our clientele would like in the future. But those are our basic futuristic hours. But as for now, we're just sticking to something shorter from 7 to 10 the weekend as well. But as time passes, we want to change that, depending on what our demands are.
So is 7 isn't significantly earlier than other restaurants that have been in that complex, is it?
It is, the previous restaurant, I believe they began at 11.
Well, what about the interior ones in the court?
There isn't currently a bakery.
I would have to look at that. The bakery does open early for breakfast, but this specific space is what work and preference is.
Gotcha.
So we're looking at that as a whole. Otherwise, there really are no other drastic changes.
No, we don't see any issues with it starting at that early. It's
Okay.
just that it has to come here.
So
Because it's
then it
big
is
change.
how late you want to stay open. That is unusual for all of our businesses, isn't it?
12 a.m.?
Yeah.
The previous ones on this site stayed open past 11.
Past 11?
We didn't allow anything outside after, I think, 10.
Oh.
Because there's a patio attached to this, so there was nothing outside after 10 p.m.
What about like the Silver Spur? How late is that open? Till midnight or
We're
1?
allowed to be open till bar time.
1.
Because they have a liquor license, as I believe.
Operations liquor license,
Yeah.
correct.
You guys have any questions?
And you will have your liquor license here as well.
I do. So we're still in the process of gaining that. So, I mean, that all depends on, if we receive it and are we going to make changes. Definitely we are. But as for now, we kind of give you an outline of what we want in the future to establish.
Is there a patio then that they
Yes.
use?
There is, they do have a deck off the back between the Syndics and the building. My recommendation would be that, you know, you add the caveat here, no outside service after 10,
Yeah,
but just to be consistent
okay.
with what we've done there in the past.
So, the previous restaurants used the interior courtyard as their, you're saying that they're planning on using the back area?
No, there's a patio that's there. Chuck, yeah, right there.
Oh, I
It's
see,
not really a bad, it's a deck.
I see.
Well, the last establishment that was there used the interior courtyard outside of the plan of their operation.
Oh, I see, I see, I see.
They were not permitted to do that.
I do have a better kind of format of that. If anyone wants to see, I have 5 copies. But the floor plan,
Sure, we'll take.
Pass those out, thank you.
Oh, we can share.
Oh, sure, oh, sure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'm trying to see.
That's the courtyard, that's the, yeah. And there's the entrance there. so-
There you go, Tom, right up there.
Yeah, so right where that entrance is, you see the staircase. So in between the entrance and the staircase, that's a patio. So they'll allow us, it's under our contract, to have a couple tables outside. And if you look on your top left-hand corner, there's a patio there as well, yes.
So, the restaurant exit entrance to that patio is from the outside up those stairs, is that it?
No, so you would actually have to enter into the restaurant, and you would be in the patio, so it's kind of closed out. The only exit from there or entrance would be the dumpster section.
I have a little bit of a problem allowing you to stay open until midnight, especially since there are homes across the street.
Sure.
No? Am I
Where-
mistaken on that?
Where are the, well, the senior living homes,
Oh,
so
the
there's no
senior
homes
living.
there.
I was thinking, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, there's no homes.
It's a pretty good distance from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the bank that's across that
Yeah.
way, yeah.
Closest homes are on the other side of Elm Grove Road.
No outside music or anything like that, right?
Low, I would assume. It's not going to be a restaurant where, a lot of people are just there to get drunk. It's a family restaurant, but, obviously there's families that do want to enjoy themselves a little bit later. So we're thinking about that option, but we're not trying to create an atmosphere where people are just not really behaving, and if so, then we'll probably have to take care of that.
And if they want to have outdoor, any kind of outdoor entertainment or something like that, they do need to come back to us because that's not part of this request.
Yes, because then I believe that we have to pay for, I believe, a license or yeah,
Small, yeah.
yes.
Do you have any other? Yes, I'm sorry, Hector.
Clarification, are you gonna be using the area near the entrance where the previous operator had it cordoned off and had some tables?
Yes, and that's between the entrance and the staircase that is there, I believe. So right in between, there's kind of a space. There's we have a separate door entrance to the restaurant that's mostly going to be used for people that are going to sit on the patio.
What about the traditional entrance to the restaurant, off of that courtyard?
Mhm.
Are you gonna use that entrance?
I believe that's what you're speaking of, so yes.
Come here, Hector? Come in here and.
Oh, there. So it's kind of more upwards. So how would I explain it? Yeah, in that area, kind of. There's.
Oh, that's right.
Oh wait, actually no. The staircase is first, so it'll be further up. Sorry. So just kind of.
Are you talking here, this staircase?
No, so where that staircase where you have the arrow, so just a little bit up from there. So yeah, so a little bit up from there. So
Here?
if you go, just I don't know how to explain it. Just kind of on that walkway, basically, would be where it's going to be.
So it's not.
Because the staircase goes up. So there you have the staircase, and right kind of under there's space. And there'll be about 2 to 4 tables outside.
Is that what you were saying that the previous people had, that wasn't permitted?
There was a question when the liquor license was applied for, whether that area would be segregated and how it would be controlled, and in terms of just serving alcoholic beverages. So are you leasing the area outside of the covered restaurant area?
So we do have, we have that part in our lease contract, to have dining in that area and in
In this area
the
here,
patio, yeah.
where I'm pointing in this area?
So it's the staircase, and then right under the staircase, if you go like further to your right, that's a space where there is
So it's
2 tables.
underneath?
Yeah,
Underneath there.
yes,
And so
exactly.
access to that area is from that side, from the inside of the restaurant?
So it's actually outside.
You can't get there from inside?
You can, and it's just kind of, I would say, in the sidewalk, like on the sidewalk.
Sound like I've been there a million times, I'm just having a hard time visualizing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a door that comes
oh, here it is.
bar area.
It's right here. Just under the staircase. And that's normally where they have their tables.
Okay.
What is the dimension of the area?
Oh, yeah.
Dimension of the area? 4 feet by.
I don't have that in my copy here,
We lost it.
but I can.
It's 619, that's all I know.
Hector, is your concern over the identification for liquor license purposes?
Yes. So that address that.
So when they come in for their liquor license, I think the best to do is to use this particular sketch you just gave us, along with an identification on the outside where the plant is serving and all the plants.
Maybe 6
But you'd have to come out your front door and come around the corner to get to the people.
to the front. You would actually have to check in with us, so you go through the front
Right.
and then through the back door.
And as you serve them,
Knowing
you have to go back
Mr.
over
Merrick
and
is
serve them.
as much as you can.
So,
So we will be walking out to the sidewalk with you inside, outside.
so
Because there's
3 tables, 4 seating 4,
3 to 6.
3 to 6 tables. It's
No, 3 to 6, so 1 table, 3 to 6,
people.
or capacity, so
Yeah.
kind of like a picnic table,
So maximum 18 people.
yes.
Did you get to see this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, just so I'm clear, you'll be, besides the interior, you'll be seating up to 18 people here and people in this area here.
Yes.
I would recommend that there be an amendment to the application that shows that area graphically,
Okay.
that we know what we're talking about. And it's up to the plan commission to decide what hours when to apply to any particular area, keep in mind what was allowed before also.
So, help me, what was allowed before? I can't really remember, it's been so long.
For the outside patio, I believe they're allowed to be out there till 10 p.m.
We're talking about this one here, this patio,
Yeah.
till 10 p.m.
I don't recall any limitations on
Because
tables up in front or the inside of the restaurant, other than the regular hours of operation.
are those kind of restrictions okay with you guys? Does that work for you?
So from outside 10 p.m. and then around the sidewalk, it's the hours that we have in place for the restaurant.
Right.
Yes.
Probably not so much in winter, but yeah.
Definitely not in winter.
Okay, anything else? Do I have a motion?
I have a question.
go
So
ahead.
that could be, it's okay if we are serving alcohol in the patio or,
In the patio,
As long as your liquor license clearly identifies those particular areas, and that's part of the license which you ultimately get.
apply for. Okay.
I think everyone is anxious to have a restaurant back in there. So,
Yeah, I'd motion for approval with the amended exhibit that Hector suggested, and with the 10 p.m. limitation for outdoor patio.
do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Did you give him his phone back?
Yes, no, it's in my pocket.
Will we be sent a copy of the extra information? Okay.
And have you made your application yet for the liquor license?
So we're supposed to pay it. I was going to stop by today, but I'll stop by tomorrow. But we have submitted. We just need to pay.
Sounds great.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good luck. We wish you well. Next order of business is review and act on a request for approval of the plan operation. No, that's the old one. Paper. Number 4, review and provide preliminary consultation on the draft certification map pursuant 305-6 for the property located at 14625 Watertown Plank. Hi,
Good evening, gentlemen.
could you just for
Attorney-
the record state your name? and-
Yep, Attorney Stephen Schmucki on behalf of Church Unlimited, the owner of the church property, institutional zone property.
Okay. So you want to bring us up to date on the changes that you made from last time?
Absolutely, thank you. So I don't know if you all recall, when I was here in July, I had provided you with a proposed certified survey map that identified a rezone of a portion of the property and created an RS1 conforming lot. The commission had some questions and concerns that they suggested we address. We went back to the surveyor and had them create the map that is now on the screen, which was done to address those concerns, namely the concern over the easement that was being suggested on the church property for purposes of driveway access to the house. And we believe that this map fully complies with the various concerns that were raised at the earlier meeting. And what I would be asking the committee or the commission to do tonight is give us conditional approval of this map, subject, of course, to further legal review, engineering review, and any other conditions that you might want to set forth tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know one of the big issues that came up once we started talking about possibly downsizing the lot that we previously proposed was whether or not it would be a spot zoning issue. I did a little research. I know your village attorney did some research and prepared a memo. I appreciate the opportunity to have talked with village attorney yesterday about it. I'm going to defer to the attorney to give you his opinion here first, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Or we can flip that script if you want. I guess it's okay. Thank you, Hector. So when I looked at the case law, what I see is that first of all, the Village Planning Commission has complete authority to rezone this and to rezone it in whatever fashion they believe is in keeping with their overall comprehensive plan, their zoning code, and the code of ordinances. The criteria that the case law, as I read it, indicates that you would look at would be whether or not it is a special privilege to the applicant, and or whether it would further community goals. Those are kind of the global prerequisites, I guess. In this case, I did a little research. Your ordinance calls for looking at the surrounding uses within 300 feet of the rezoned property. And I note that the property immediately to the west is a lot that is smaller than what's being proposed, regardless of the zoning class. And quite frankly, I'm not sure. I think what we have to the west is RS1, but that lot doesn't conform to RS1. I believe to the south of Wisconsin Avenue, which would be within that 300 feet, is RS3. And you have a couple of lots down there that don't even conform to RS4. So I think what we're looking at is saying that this lot it may not comply, depending on the RS class, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, with every detail of that class, but it conforms to the surrounding use. We're simply asking for a rezone from institutional to residential. You have various different properties, all zoned residential, different sizes, different dimensions, different square footages. We feel that we would be well within keeping within the community's zoning, the type of neighborhood, et cetera, and that it's well within your authority to go ahead and make that decision. So again, I think what I'm basically asking is that you consider that rezone. If there's some conditions, we can deal with those. We certainly know we need to go through engineering for any final details on the map, back through legal for any other issues that there might be there. But as I mentioned back in July, the client is anxious to move this forward as quickly as possible, and that's kind of where we're at.
First of all, the Planning Commission does play a role in rezoning when the decision to zone is at the village board. And so, typically, since we don't have any rezonings in the village, to refresh your memory, the process for rezoning is that there's an application. We had a conceptual review previously. Whenever questions were raised, some of which may or may not have been answered. In this particular situation, I recommended that Mr. Harrigan go back and look at the property file that we have. And interestingly enough, it had been a single-family home for which there was a suspicion to rezone the single-family home as part of the institutional structure that was there at that point in time. I did speak with counsel for the church, and he reported to me that the lot to the west did not meet the 25,000 square foot indicated to him that in generating my opinion, I used the village's zoning map, and that I did not see the request from the plan commission to me to verify the dimensions of all of the particular lots surrounding the proposed new lot. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to by the 300-foot radius, other than that there has to be notice given to properties that are within the 300-foot radius, and that would be part of the process of the rezoning, because there would have to be a class 2 publication preceding public hearing, so that's basically about 15 days out. In this particular situation, as I point out in my memo, spot zoning is not necessarily an unlawful occurrence, but the case law does say that besides the special benefit accruing to the applicant, namely in this instance, being able to create a residential lot with acreage less than the required amount, albeit the house to the west might have maybe 22,000 square feet. There is a difference between the required 25,000 square feet and what is being proposed here with 18,000 plus square feet. Now, the question that precipitated my research was that originally the applicant came in requesting an RS1 lot. And I concluded that it would be difficult with an RS2 or an RS4 to make the recommendation for rezoning, but the RS1 seems to me to be probably consistent with whatever the double A residential zoning was in the records that we found. We haven't been able to determine the particulars of that. The issue that is the elephant in the room, so to speak, is the access to the Watertown Plank Road. Here we do not have an indication of where that access is going to be with this reduction of the lot size. I believe President Fulton is concerned that there was a considerable easement over that lot, and it would be atypical for an RS1 lot. As I pointed out, all the lots that are along Watertown Plank Road on the opposite side and on this side are all RS1. And all the lots north of Wisconsin Avenue are RS1. And the proposed lot would not be touching any lot or across the street directly from any lot that would be an RS3 or an RS4. And finally, the thing that's still a question mark, if you do decide to make a recommendation here, I think you should condition it on making sure that the new configuration shown here doesn't create a setback issue with regards to the size of the house and the front yard of the house and the backyard of the house. It was not possible for me to really accurately measure that, and that was called out, along with an appropriate notation to what's going to happen to the existing paved area, which is being used as access to the Watertown Plank.
So the issues with the setbacks, that would be come forward, the issues of potential setback. would come forward during the engineering phase, is that right? That isn't, other than noting it, we wouldn't need to do anything.
Maybe the surveyor made this, these changes, has that information. I don't know, but it's not.
Yeah.
So it's 23.
23 feet on the side yard.
It's close to 20 on the other side,
And
scale wise, but might be under.
Which is,
So they can't do much about that.
Yeah,
Existing.
That's probably
The
what
other-
it was when we switched the zoning.
if, I think there's two issues that we need to talk about real quick. One is, we do not have a petition for rezoning in front of us at this point. We only have a request for a certified survey. So, keep in mind that as we go through this, anything that the commission takes action on should be predicated on this property being rezoned. And that's a separate petition and a separate process. The map itself, you know, part of the issue here is that they're trying to conform with the properties that are adjacent to it, and then also deal with the access to the church. If the main issue that the commission has is on whether or not there should be that easement or not be that easement on the property, you know, driveways change all the time. Driveways aren't permanent. You know, the historic photos show the driveway wasn't there to start with. It was way over further to the east. And so there's nothing that says that, you know, you have to maintain that driveway there. There's nothing that says they have to have two driveway entrances to that parking lot. You know, they could get away with one. There's not that big a lot, and we have a lot bigger lots than that with just one entrance. And so, you know, we should be more concerned about the overall property itself and what final configuration we end up with, instead of, you know, we're, you know, putting too much emphasis on an easement or a driveway, because those things are relatively fleeting as things go.
Wouldn't the easement potentially give a permanent right?
It does.
Right.
It does. But I mean, but you can always give up your easement or take it away.
my reading of this, you're no longer asking for the easement. Am I misreading that?
The current map, the revised map does not show an easement, correct?
Right. It does not
So
show.
we aren't addressing an easement
Right,
because
right.
apparently they're no longer asking for it.
So the current map that you see in front of you on the screen is, you know, creating lot 1 and lot 2. Lot 1 would be conforming on size, lot 2 is conforming in size, lot 1 is not. So it doesn't meet the front yard setback, or the front yard width, and it doesn't meet the total acreage size for an RS1. If you wanted to allow this type of a configuration and this type of a lot, you know, in the RS1 with lesser size, then we're into the spot zoning conversation and talking about allowing it to be a smaller substandard lot in this neighborhood, which just happens to conform to everything else out there.
What's the front lot for an RS1 supposed to be?
125.
125?
125,
Yeah.
which
And
is
that's what
easily
we-
attainable.
Yeah.
That's what we had proposed on the original draft of the map.
So you made it a little bit smaller.
Yes, but maybe if I could interject too, one of the comments that the village attorney mentioned was the 300-foot, and I kind of struggled with that myself initially, thinking, okay, the ordinance says, and I'm looking at 335-77 petitions for amendment, and it says in subsection A that we're to provide a plot plan, which is the map, obviously, in this case, to a certain scale, and show dimensions and locations and things, and then, and the location and existing use of all properties within 300 feet of the area proposed to be rezoned. And that was a question I had with Hector the other day on the phone, was what lot are we looking at when we're calculating where we're looking at the adjacent uses? Is it the lot that we're gonna break up into two lots? Or is it the final rezoned lot? And I think I tend to agree with you now, that it's the rezoned lot. And we'd be calculating 300 feet from the rezoned lot, not the larger lot that's being split up. But even under that scenario, 300 feet from the south lot line takes us across Wisconsin Avenue into RS3 zoning class. So if you look at your own ordinance and you apply that analysis, you would have, at least in theory, a place to reside with your logic in providing for a smaller lot in this rezone.
So why did you reduce the size of the lot? You pulled it from 25 feet on the side to 23?
Right, because, well, it was to address the easement issue and other comments from the commission in July that said, why don't you square this up and make that south lot line of the proposed rezone lot match the lots to the east and the west?
South, but we're looking at the east line now.
Yeah, right. Well, that isn't that far off. That's only 2 feet different than what it was in the original map. We had 125 feet of frontage, now we've got 123.
Well, you have 145.
Oh, okay, I'm
You're
sorry.
trying to get to your 25,000 square feet.
I think when we were saying square it off, we were just talking about the southern line and squaring it off that way, bringing it out to 25 all the way around.
Okay.
Yeah, the only alternative would be to just keep growing it along Watertown Plank Road to get it to 25,000, right?
Right, right. In which case you'd be creating a lot with a whole lot of pavement that you're trying to sell.
Well, they would have to remove some of it because of when it goes through engineering to get down in. Actually, so would the church, because I believe they have, would be,
Well, they're allowed,
Setback.
they're allowed 80% impervious surface, so
yeah, but they would have a setback to the side lot.
it's only 20 feet.
Or 3 feet for the driveway.
3 feet for the driveway, but for the building itself. it's only
Yeah,
20
no,
feet.
I was talking about, so they would have to remove some pavement to do the 3 feet from the driveway.
Right. If there's no easement for it, we don't.
Yeah, no easement, we're talking no
Right.
easement.
I know last time Joe brought up the possibility of if in the future it were to again be rezoned, so it was all residential. That's why we were thinking maybe eyeing up connecting that lot line between Watertown and Wisconsin.
Right.
In that case, we just have 2 lots on Watertown and 2 lots on Wisconsin. 150-foot frontage. Watertown. Would that
Gotta
be
go back to
25,000?
I mean, if you wanted to split it, I mean, it's almost, you have to have a 90-foot minimum per lot. It's almost better to push this in to 0.17 feet to make that 2 90-foot lots, or potentially in the future then, that, either that or you expand it out to get up to 20,000
Yeah.
square feet.
Yeah, and you're right, Pat, if you went to 150, you divided it so that you had 2 lots facing Watertown Plank Road, that would get you really close to the 25. Because of the angle of Watertown Plank Road, it's not a straight up calculation.
Yeah.
Right.
But just doing 150 and the 145, it gets you to 22, so.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, dilemma, because I agree some of these adjacent homes that are shown as RS1 don't meet all of those requirements. So it's not,
Yeah,
it's the nature of what's out there, but.
Right.
To answer Hector's question, I did do and by the way, I became an attorney, not a math professor, so my math may be slightly in error, but I did the analysis on a couple of those lots, and the lot immediately to the east, which is Tax Key, that's 160, is, by my math, 17,916 square feet. The next one over, 159, is 21,453. And then the third one over, which I think if you were, again, within that 300-foot line for the ordinance, That one's 20,390. But then again, on south of Wisconsin Avenue, there's a lot there, tax key 260, 1109-263, that's 14,361. And the one that's on the corner of Wisconsin and Crystal Lane is only 12,000 square feet. And,
I think I'm more interested in matching immediate neighbors than those that are across Wisconsin Avenue.
Well, sins of the past.
yeah, I understand that, I do. I'm just saying that based on what the ordinance says, we're looking at within 300 feet, I guess if you drew a circle, those other lots would be in it. And so you've got, in my view, more flexibility in how you view the request because you've got much smaller lots within that 300 feet. And again, it's all residential. It's not like we're asking for a business or.
And the smallest one that you mentioned in the name immediately to the west was what?
17,916. So the one immediately to the west of the parcel that we're talking about rezoning here is, make sure I got this right, yeah, 1109-160. By my calculation is 17,916. Somewhere in that vicinity. I'm not sure how you do a lot that isn't absolutely square, but it's my understanding of square footage is length times width.
So seriously, the one immediately to the west is only 17,000 square
What's
feet?
the,
It's 123 by,
Yes, 43,560 times acres.
and like I said, maybe I did that wrong.
I can't read that if I'm supposed to be.
0.4113, isn't it?
17,916 square feet.
now, keep in mind that that particular lot has the dedication for Watertown Plank Road. When you do the calculations on the ones to the further west, you'll notice that their dedication is not shown on their map. That's because, for whatever reason, it hasn't been included at this point in time, even though the village has the rights of that piece of right-of-way. It's not in their legal description. So
So we were comparing apples to oranges.
in that case, yes. Because that mapped acreage is to the center line
Center of
of
the road.
Watertown Plank
So
Road.
it's over projecting the acreage.
Right.
But I think the lot immediately west and the proposed lot, those are apples to apples because the surveyor did take into account the right of way.
So if you were to take the right of way into consideration as you went west, they would be increasingly larger, but not significantly so like they show on the mapped acreage. You know, there might be 1,000 square feet more or something because you're going from 123
Yeah.
feet wide to 128 to 129. So, I mean, if the object is to try to be consistent across these lots, you know, they should be, you know, we should at least be trying to get as close to the 125 frontage as we can.
Can we put that back to 125? And then I don't think anyone has a significant issue, do you?
Well, then the issue is gonna become that, you know, are you comfortable with creating that lot in that configuration? That is not an RS1. And so you would have to look at making it RS3.
One of the things that I always use as a guidepost is forget about a matter before you and think about the other matters that will come before you and how they will look back at whatever action you take here, given high demand in the village for buildable lots that can be created out of larger lots elsewhere, which typically are located
you suggesting that setting a precedent to encourage subdividing larger lots, or?
It's something you're gonna have to deal with and distinguish.
So,
It almost seems like these we should be rezoning the adjacent houses as RS3 to me. I mean, they're non-conforming.
They are existing non-conforming.
Existing, yes.
so, other situations we've been where lots have been combined, Neil is always quick to say it can never be separated. And it sounds like that's what we're at least talking about. Why is it never can be separated and all of a sudden it can?
We have an ordinance that specifically prohibits once you combine a lot that you cannot redivide it. So it's once you combine it, so it doesn't apply to existing lots, only newly combined lots. So there's a
What's the distinction there?
there's a date in the ordinance. And I'm trying to remember what it
There's
is.
an ordinance that everyone who comes before you is warned about that. The reality is, in 40-some years that I've been the village attorney, the ordinance has not lasted that length of time, but there's never been a challenge to that. So, it's community plan preference, which the board does have home rule authority to enforce, so long as it enforces it in a uniform fashion. So I'm reasonably confident that ordinance can be defended without necessarily having to be standing in the back of the courtroom on a fair road case. It's something that we have followed for a number of years.
So I'm trying to take your previous advice to heart about not doing anything that would be taken as a precedent, but it looks to me, and I don't mean to be argumentative, we're trying to make this lot reflect the surrounding lots, the neighborhood, which is in this case, those houses directly to the west. Is there something wrong with that concept?
No, just so long as you articulate the rationale so that someone doesn't come back and just say, point blank, you have, you've authorized the creation of a lot on a street that's completely surrounded by RS1 zone lots. We'd like to have something approved at 80,000 square feet
Well,
instead of 25,000 square feet.
I would like to see him increase it to the 125. To bring that much closer.
Well, can you put the first map up again, the first proposed survey? Yeah, so this one, are you suggesting that as long as we've got 125 feet of frontage on Watertown Plank, that the commission would entertain a lot of lesser square feet than the minimum required under RS1?
I thought I heard some people say that if it was 125, it'd bring us really close.
It'll bring you close to 20,000 square feet. If you go to 150 feet frontage and use the existing back lot line,
And you're getting closer.
yeah, if you go to that to 150, then you're pretty close to 25,000. It all comes down to how much of they're trying to maintain a certain amount of parking lot there.
Sure.
That's really what it comes down to, because when you look at the overall frontage, there's 309 feet linear frontage across Watertown Plank Road. you can only get 2 lots out of that, no matter how you divide it up. So, you know, if they ever wanted to sell the other part of their parking lot at some point, then you'd have to look at, you'd have a bigger lot, much bigger lot,
Right.
which would be more in conformance with the one directly to the east. Look at Tom doing fancy dances.
So what is, oh,
Still, yeah.
What do you get with that?
18.6.
If this 125 and 150 is like what, the 22 something, right? 22.
Well,
Does that include the entire driveway there, or?
almost 2/3 of it.
Okay.
But remember, up at the southern end where the church is, there was a desire on the part of the church to keep some green space there. I mean, that possible configuration is pretty tight to the building. And there's a tree there that they were trying to save.
Well,
That's
not
why-
that
that's why-
it's gonna go, it's just not gonna be on the church's property anymore.
Yeah, right. Well,
Yeah.
but that's why we initially proposed the map that had the angled line back there. So I'm not sure.
What is the 150?
But I guess I would ask this, I mean, if we use that original map and eliminated the easement, aren't we then pretty much in compliance with all your requirements?
Yes, I would think so.
yes, other than the fact that it makes kind of an awkward property line, and we're wondering if it didn't make more sense to even up the south line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense here, but it's a walk through here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that only gets you to 23.
Mm-hmm.
Now, RS2, which is much closer to RS1, you know, is a 20,000 square foot lot.
And I think that only requires 100 and, is it 120?
It's 120 feet from.
Yeah.
Feet on that retaining wall, walkway area.
Isn't that where the old columbarium was?
But you know, the RS2 would still be a spot zone.
It wouldn't be as disparate.
Wouldn't be as,
I still disagree.
Respectfully.
With all due deference.
I mean, is one of the fundamental questions on what, well, you know, start with the base, does anybody have any objection to them dividing off this lot so that they can sell the property? And I haven't never heard anybody say, no, it's not a problem.
No.
So it's how do we get them from point A to point B?
yeah.
Yeah,
And, you know, I think Hector, you know, raises a good point that if you do this and you create the lot that is substandard, and rezone it to a smaller lot, you're gonna have to be very explicit in the
Why?
record
Yeah.
on why you did it, and then if somebody else can come up with another circumstance that is identical to it,
Mm-hmm.
they have a good argument.
Everyone would be able to say, if we're talking about, creation and rezoning of the parcel on the tax exempt parcel, that they're to gain taxes. But that's not what necessarily drives good policy.
Yeah. But good policy is trying to be conforming with your surrounding neighbors.
Right.
Right. And that's really the principle that we're trying to uphold.
right.
But you will be, you know, to the extent that you have these other existing non-conforming lots, I think you've got flexibility there because there's a number of different lots that I grant you are grandfathered. And I understand the difference with, this is a rezone, this is a new thing, and somebody coming in after this could say, well, yeah, but then you get this, and we want the same treatment. But it's not as if you don't have surrounding lots that are non-conforming and much smaller than what's being proposed in either map.
I think we're all willing to let you split it off, just as Dave said, but we're trying to make it similar to the lots next to it. Not so much those across Wisconsin Avenue, but those directly to the east. Excuse me, to the west, rather. And this is at this point just an advisory, right, again?
We're still in
Consultation,
consultation, yeah.
yeah.
So
I-
if there was to go to RS2, Hector, they would still have to, we would want them to meet, I mean, the minimum frontage is 120, that's not an issue. But the square footage of the lot is 20,000 square feet, so they have to increase the lot size by 1,500 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you move the south line down a little bit, which then is gonna line up with the neighbor, but give you more square footage.
Can I ask one question? You submitted the initial RS1. If the plan commission felt that even though it's not a regular rectangle here, and if the commission were inclined to approve that, could the church live with that? Could you make accommodations to deal with the pavement that's on that lot?
I believe so. I cannot speak for the pavement issue. I don't think they're anticipating that they're gonna have to tear up pavement, which is what you're alluding to, right?
Yeah.
For the impervious.
Yeah, in other words, move your access point to Watertown Plank back to the east, back to where it was originally at the point in time when the church annexed the house and made it a parsonage.
I get back to my point though, Hector, is why do they need two entrances? They don't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to.
That's another possibility, I'm not insisting that there be two or three, I don't think you have access points.
Yeah.
Although you can't get from, am I correct in saying that you can't get from the Watertown Plank side around the church to Watertown Plank without going across the block?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any access across the lot over to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
there are.
no.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
So if they were to go to a single access point, it's not really,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect their ability to park and utilize that lot.
No, I would agree that they would have, still have access to their lot. There may be other considerations that I'm not fully
Right.
aware of as to why they were trying to initially configure it that way.
I'm sure they don't want to give up the property with their sign on it, but
Right.
The property to the east of the parking lot, is that, how much frontage is the parking of the house to the east?
102.
It's only,
no, it's on a double lot.
what's a double lot though?
Yeah.
But then the next,
Then you go back down to 102.
yeah.
That one's actually the one that's different. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two lots together.
Williams Assessment Falls.
So, do we need to do something here, or what?
Well, I think it'd be good to give them good
Clear
solid
direction.
direction.
Remind me again, the lot directly to the west, what is the square footage on that one?
What I calculated was 17,916 with the right of way in, with the road right of way in, not included.
Right.
So it's the lot up to the furthest.
That's the lot as shown.
Close, yeah, as shown. I get 17,000, just under 18,000 square feet.
Yeah, the way I look at it, probably the largest lot that makes sense is from this point over to just about the retaining wall, up to the edge, and then to get your footage up here. Something extended from here to here, probably what you're thinking.
I'm a little confused though, we're not required to have 145, right? The
No.
minimum requirement is 125.
Actually, this is just the perspective based on the original submittal.
Yeah.
It's 145, so it's
Right.
hard to see where that interferes with that access. But you're right, you are correct. Clear that.
You know, I know we were talking about, oops, getting right in my eyeball. Talked about connecting these lines last time and tonight. But if you look to the south, so this is 146 dimension, right? And if you look to the property to the south, it's 180 something, I believe.
$183, yeah.
183. You know, so maybe having a lot line further south to get more area isn't necessarily maybe in the future, if this were to become residential. You get more similar depth lots.
So you're suggesting that we want to bring that,
Well,
Lot-
I'm
yeah.
sorry to do this too, but back to what they had the first time where they had the lot line further back here to get more area.
yeah.
I see what you're saying finally. I wasn't following you until just now. So can a rectangle be drawn from there to roughly there and up?
At the 125.
Yeah,
Sorry, we pointed out again.
Pretty close to what they had the first time, other than that little trapezoid they had, or that truncated corner to get around the tree.
So use your laser, point the other, this intersection here, and then drag it. About here. There,
Yeah, that seems about right.
carry it over.
yeah, so
Let's not go to the building.
Yeah.
What kind of setback do you got on the building?
20 feet.
so you can go to 125 to,
That's the other issue, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the truncated corner.
Yep.
Configuring to do, it's a great project for the surveyor.
and there you have it. What about the setback between there and there now?
Yeah, you probably
Oh, it's 119, which is,
a little shy, but yeah, he was eyeballing it.
22.
yeah. 119 versus, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess as far as I am concerned, try to get that 125 along Watertown and see how big area you can get without messing up the church.
Yeah. Those are actually my concerns too. So, do you have what you need? No, probably not yet.
Far from it. No. Well, I think if I'm understanding you all correctly, and I appreciate the town planner, village planner putting that on there, that would be something that the commission could get behind, this configuration here, so long as it doesn't because we're gonna have to measure all the setbacks off of those lines. I don't know quite where those fit, but I'm guessing the surveyor did that the first time around, and that's why he angled a little bit, although there was the tree issue as well. I think that was something that the church was sort of interested in keeping that tree on the church because they do something out there with, you know, the little kids or, I don't know. But, so that ultimately kind of brings us back to this first map, and,
Yeah.
I guess I can understand in one sense the desire to sort of, you know, match the shape, but at the same time, you know, if it's meeting all the other requirements, I'm not sure how that falls into the ordinance per se, as to it has to be a square or a rectangle or a whatever. I mean,
It won't be the first irregularly shaped lot in the village.
yeah, yeah.
But if it was ever church torn down and redivided out with those kind of kinks in there, it would make it really difficult.
Yeah. Well, that, I mean, I guess that's on them ultimately at the end of the day, that if they ever did disband and decide that they were gonna liquidate and turn it into residential lots or something,
Something that we're in the middle of right now, so.
yeah, they'd have to confront that then. I certainly don't, that certainly isn't what they're considering now. This is solely to try to buy down debt, and they don't need a parsonage anymore. The Episcopalian Church did, apparently, and that's why they had it rezoned, you know, back in the day, but that's not what this entity is doing, so. So I guess for my marching orders, what I would need is to just be clear that we're considering the following. Number one, that you want the 125 feet minimum frontage, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And then, of course, we need to meet all other setbacks.
Right.
But,
There's a square footage target that we're.
yeah, that's the next one. What's the square footage? I mean, are we, because anything less than 25,000 square feet is not going to meet your RS1.
RS2 is what, 20?
20.
It's
I think
20.
that's the target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, going forward, as Hector gave the good advice, and we'd have to be very explicit as to the considerations that we had to allow it. The rationale.
And the other thing would be resolution of the easement area.
Yes.
in terms of the improvements. That,
In other words, if you don't have an easement, it's not an issue.
Right, no easement.
Yes.
If you have an easement,
Right.
then we want to see how it should be resolved.
I want the engineering issues to deal with that, you know, the pavement area. And
Well, one of the things the surveyor is gonna have to do is calculate the impervious surface on this newly created lot to make sure it doesn't violate the ordinance.
Sure. Is that enough room, since the garage is facing the east, is that enough room to pull out and go down a driveway?
20 feet?
Fine.
That's the way it is right now.
22 feet, it's a question that I don't know, because I don't typically get involved in that stuff. That is enough.
It is, that's the existing setback, so, you know, consider some of these new homes that are completely taking up the building.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I know your ordinance, the RS2 has a specific impervious surface area, RS1 is different. So just so I'm clear, if we meet the impervious surface for RS2,
RS2 and RS1 are the same, so.
They are, okay. I didn't, I know I looked at it, I didn't remember
Yeah,
that, okay.
no, they're the same.
But it would probably impact the impervious surface of the church too, because you're gonna have to clear 3 feet from that line because of setbacks.
I'm not following.
For the driveway.
This line right here,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to clear 3 feet in that direction probably,
remove 3 feet of pavement?
yeah, of pavement.
Hmm.
If I understand the rules correctly,
You do.
which is always in doubt.
You got it right that time.
The parsonage have a garage currently,
Yeah, I believe it's that corner there, yeah.
and access straight in.
Side access. So you come up to the south and then head west into the garage.
Is plowing going to be an issue with
And as you discuss this with the church, you look at it from the standpoint of what future yield can be get here. I believe that there are many congregations that drive and find that they can't continue to grow to meet this location, so they relocate. Having ownership of property in Elm Grove and being able to convert it into residential usage is something that we should have a back of our mind,
Mm-hmm.
backup strategy.
Yeah.
And we're not talking high-rise apartments, please.
That was proposed once, it did not go well
Yeah.
on this location.
At this location, really?
When the property was for sale, we did have somebody come in, wanted to, rather dense development there. Primarily because of the cost of demolition of that particular church is extremely high.
Oh, really?
No, concrete. It's all reinforced, poured concrete.
The only other question I have is, it goes to something the city manager mentioned earlier about petitioning for the rezone. The initial map that we presented for conceptual did have a letter that I basically said, this is a petition, letter petition. You know, if that just gets moved forward to the next meeting, is that sufficient, or are you looking for some other? Because I didn't see anything in the ordinance, like an application form or petition form. It's basically just comply with the ordinance and move it ahead.
Well, the rezoning request is a separate action that requires a public hearing and,
Right.
you know, a hearing in front of the board and all the rest of that. So it's different than a certified survey map. Survey map is just for the purpose of creating or modifying an existing lot.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that you understand that it's just not the certified survey map.
Oh,
approval.
yes, no,
That we've got to go through this whole other process
right,
too.
the rezone and the amendment to the comp plan and
Yep.
then the approval, but my understanding was we can combine all of that into one process once this commission has made its
It
recommendation.
can all be done at the same time. They are separate actions, but we can do them all at once.
Okay, good. Well, I think, unless anybody else has any other questions for me. No.
Good.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you to your staff. You do good work. Appreciate the follow-up.
So, is there any other business?
There is no other business here.
I do not. Let's not say.
The next meeting of the
Other
commission?
business, the next meeting would be the first week of September, which is Labor Day, and would fall on Labor Day, so keep your eyes out there. If you don't pull, schedule it for later that week,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Is that good with you guys?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Then I'll,
Motion to adjourn?
Second, yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.